Welcome back to the Grow Your Nutrition Business podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, founder of Healthy Steps Nutrition, CrossFit HSN, and HSN Mentoring, where we believe something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated. Our mission is to empower gym owners and coaches to feel confident when talking about nutrition to their members and their communities. We do this by teaching a simple, habit-based approach. HSN Mentoring provides a turnkey solution for gym owners and coaches so that they can diversify revenue streams and help their clients achieve the results they're looking for through a comprehensive nutrition program. Did you know that HSN Mentoring has a free Facebook group for gym owners? In this group, you will find links to free help, trainings, live Q&As, and so much more. Make sure you check this group out. Go to your search bar or the link below this podcast, type in Nutrition Coaching Made Simple, and you will find the group right there. Today, we are talking about motivational interviewing. We are in the relationship business, and by utilizing motivational interviewing, you can really deepen your relationship with clients. We always talk about helping clients understand their why behind their goals because it really does come down to an emotion. We know progress is never a straight line, and we really need to understand the why so we can keep our clients motivated. Motivational interviewing helps you dig deep and understand your client's why. In this episode, you're going to learn things like the types of questions you should be asking your clients during consultations, how to assess your listening skills, which is really a conscious effort that we all need to work on all the time, and ensure accurate interpretation of what your client is telling you. Enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the Grow Your Nutrition Business podcast. Today we have Ashley Osterman. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
Today we're talking about motivational interviewing and really what it is, why it's important, and how to do it as a nutrition coach.
Yeah, motivational interviewing is kind of a buzzword, right? We hear it a lot. We know we're supposed to do it as nutrition coaches, but I think there's a little bit of confusion and lack of direction when we're looking at putting this into practice as a nutrition coach with our clients.
There's only so much you can do as a nutrition coach to motivate your clients to change.
Right.
And this interviewing technique, it definitely can help. It's important to understand what it is and how to implement it, because you're not just going to be able to have a pep talk with someone and get them to do everything that you want them to do, right?
Right, absolutely. So let's talk about what motivational interviewing it is, at its core. Being a motivational interviewer will help you provide a foundation for assisting your nutrition clients with developing the rationale for beginning change in their lives. So we can see this change as being their short-term and long-term health and wellness goals. So by using motivational interviewing and its principles, you can help communicate to your clients and get them to open up in a way that will help them be ready to make that change to reach their goals. So you're getting to the why and the core of why they want to make that change or want to achieve those long-term health and wellness goals. But then you're also motivating them and preparing them to be confident to make those changes.
We are always preaching that as a nutrition coach, you're in the relationship business. And I think this is one piece of the puzzle that allows you to build a relationship with your clients to know them on a deeper level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think at the core of motivational interviewing, that's really what you're accomplishing, right? Like you want to be able to build that relationship with clients and help them navigate through all aspects of life.
Yes, absolutely. You want to build that trust. And we do that by building the rapport with our clients and using these techniques from motivational interviewing, and also remembering to be an active listener will help you build that trust.
Ashley, one thing that you said recently is, in initial consults, your clients should be doing 70 to 80% of the talking.
Oh, 100%. They need to be doing most of the talking.
Like you're not there to lecture them on nutrition in an initial consult or ever.
No.
Like you're there to really find out and dig deep to understand where they're at in their life and how you can best support them on their journey to health.
Yes, that is 100% what we need to be focusing on as a nutrition coach. And one of the things that I do when I am actually reviewing how my nutrition coaches are doing at HSN HQ, one of the questions that I look at is who did most of the talking during that consultation? And, it should mostly be the client. We should just be asking these open-ended questions. So let's kind of dive into how to be a motivational interviewer as a nutrition coach. A lot of these techniques that I'm going to share with you on the podcast today can actually be found in a motivational interviewing and nutrition and fitness book, and that's by Dawn Clifford and Laura Curtis. If you guys want to dive deeper into motivational interviewing and really catch up on some of these topics that I'll be discussing. So, Nicole, I don't know if you've heard this acronym before, but OARS. OARS is very popular when we talk about motivational interviewing. And OARS stands for open questions, affirmation, reflective listening, and summary reflections. And these are really the basic techniques and skills that are used in the motivational interviewing approach.
So let's start off with the top. Open-ended questions.
Yeah.
What is an open-ended question? Do you see what I just did there?
I did see that. Good job. An open-ended question really invites others to tell their story in their own words without leading them in a specific direction. Open-ended questions should be used often in conversation with our nutrition clients, but not exclusively. Of course, when asking open-ended questions, you must be willing to actively listen to the person's response. So let's talk really quickly about active listening. Active listening is not just listening, it's also what you do with your body language, right? So Nicole, you guys can't see this right now, but as I'm talking, Nicole is making eye contact with me and she's nodding her head, which in return tells me that she's engaged and listening to what I am saying. So making that eye contact, nodding your head, making sure we're not hunched over or having our arms crossed. Or another thing that commonly happens with nutrition coaches is we're frantically looking at our computer trying to type notes in, right? And sometimes that can be distracting and make the client think that you're not really paying attention. So I actually like to take handwritten notes when I'm talking to my nutrition client so I can stop, look up at them, and continue to engage in what they're telling me. So open-ended questions are obviously the opposite of closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions typically elicit a limited response, such as a yes or a no. So let me give you some examples of what some open-ended questions might be. How can I help you with blank? Can you help me understand blank? How would you like things to be different? Or one of my favorites when we're talking about a client's long-term goal, how would your life be different if you were to achieve X goal right now? So as you see, I'm not leading them in a direction. I'm not closing off the options for them answering the question by a quick yes or no and moving on. I'm allowing them to speak in their words, telling their own story without me leading them in a specific direction. Some other examples are, what are the good things about blank? And what are the less good things about it if we're talking about something they're struggling with? Or when would you be most likely to blank? And that would be insert their habit or their action step. What do you think you will lose if you give up soda or whatever you're talking about? So you see, I'm allowing them to explain in more detail, which is so important, especially when figuring out the why behind our client's goal.
I think this is such an important piece of the puzzle, and it's so easy to just do close-ended questions, especially as a newer nutrition coach, because you're just nervous and you just want to make sure you're checking all the boxes or whatever. And this piece of the puzzle allows you to really build that relationship with the client. One of the things we ask nutrition coaches to do, and one of the things we do during initial assessments, is find out about a typical day. Yep. It's so easy to do yes or no questions in that, but you really have to reframe it to figure out how you're not leading clients to answer in a certain way. So for instance, if I say, what did you have for breakfast? That technically is an open-ended question, but now I'm assuming they had breakfast. Or do you eat breakfast? Yes or no? Close-ended question. Versus what's the first thing that you usually eat during the day?
Yeah.
Like framing your question to make it so that you're not assuming that they do something is really helpful. And sometimes it takes intentionality.
Absolutely. And framing the question so you're not limiting their response, I think is so important when we're talking about open-ended questions. All right, I guess we should move on to A, which is affirmations. Affirmations are statements and gestures that recognize clients' strengths and acknowledge behaviors that lead them in the direction of positive change, no matter how big or small. And Nicole, we always say as nutrition coach, you're a bright spot engineer. You gotta find those bright spots. And a lot of times we're our most toughest critic on ourselves. So being able to find those bright spots and those affirmations are so important because they build confidence in your client's ability to change. And to be effective, affirmations should be genuine and congruent. So I guess I should give some examples of affirmations now, huh? So some things I like to say is, I appreciate that you took the time to meet with me today. I also like to talk about, you are clearly a very motivated person when my client's talking to me about what their next goal might be, right? Acknowledging that motivation. Or if they tell me about a situation that, could have gone in a bad direction and caused them to go off track, but they actually were able to listen and hear something I said to keep them on track, I might respond in, wow, you handled yourself very well in that situation. I'm so proud of you, right? I think we all need to hear that positive reinforcement. Another good one is if your client has a suggestion about what their next habit or action step might be, I like to say, that's a great suggestion. Now let's work together to put that suggestion into an action plan. So, really making sure that we are giving them these affirming responses. Even, something like, wow, if I were in your shoes, I don't know if I could manage that nearly as well. Showing that we are appreciating and we see that positivity that they're achieving. And one last one that I like to end all of my nutrition consultations with is, I really enjoyed talking with you today.
I like that. You have to share the positivity throughout the consultation. Positivity breeds positivity. So if you are talking about those bright spots, and I think that's one of the reasons why we talk about, hey, what are the awesome things that have happened over the past month during the beginning of every single follow-up visit, so that we can start with a positive note, because we know positivity breeds positivity. And sometimes, especially for some people, it's really tough for them to see the positive.
Yeah.
Like, it's really tough, and you have to actively train them on thinking of the positive side of things, like glass half empty or glass half full, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you acknowledging the awesome things that they've done, the hard work that they did, is such an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, acknowledge and then giving one of those affirming responses, guys. Such a great tool and tactic that you should be using as a nutrition coach. All right, let's get to R, reflective listening. This one I think we all need to be very intentional about. I think it's so important to keep this in the forefront of your mind when working with your nutrition clients. Reflective listening is actually a pretty primary skill in outreach. It's the pathway for engaging others in relationships, building trust, and fostering that motivation to change. Reflective listening appears easy, but it actually takes hard work and skill to do well. Sometimes these skills that we use when working with our clients do not exemplify reflective listening, but instead serve as roadblocks to effective communication. So, an example might be misinterpreting what was said or assuming what a person needs.
Sometimes even when you repeat something that someone said and you say it out loud, it makes them realize, like, oh, actually, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant at all. And now you guys are on the same page, right?
That's
It's
right.
so easy. Like, I know I've done interviews in the past and I've listened to me talk. I'm like, I don't know that I really meant to say that, right? And sometimes, if you are reflective listening, it's easier to correct and ensure you're on the same page.
Absolutely. So, some people find it helpful to use some standard phrases when it comes to reflective listening. So, you could say, so you feel, or it sounds like you, or you're wondering if. These are basic examples of reflective listening that can deepen or increase what your client is trying to tell you. Another thing I like to say too is, could you say that again in a different way?
You do that a lot with clients. And
Yes.
I love that because it's such an important piece of the puzzle. You're in the relationship business. We have to have clients know that we're actively engaged with them, that we are not thinking about what the kids are doing at home or homeschooling tomorrow or anything else. Like, we are 100% focused on you and your success. And here's how I'm going to be involved with this conversation. It's not just you talking, I'm listening to figure out how I can help you and support you on your journey.
Yep. Absolutely. So when we talk about reflective listening, there are kind of 3 levels of reflective listening. So the first level is repeating or rephrasing. So the listener repeats or substitutes synonyms or phrases and stays close to what the speaker has said. Another one is paraphrasing. That's when the listener makes a restatement in which the speaker's meaning is inferred. And the third example is reflection of feeling. So the listener emphasizes the emotional aspects of communication through the feeling statements. And that kind of goes from, I guess, the more general level of repeating to rephrasing to the deepest level of reflection of feeling. And those varying levels of reflection is effective when it comes to active listening. And also at times, there can be benefits to overstating or understating a reflection. So overstating a reflection may cause a person to back away from their position or their initial belief, and understating reflection may help a person explore that commitment to the position or belief deeper. And again, this is so important when talking to your clients about their whys.
Give me an example.
So, for example, somebody might have said to me in a consultation, well, I really want to lose weight so I can be at X number of pounds.
Okay.
And I say, oh, okay. So if I overstate a reflection, I could say, well, you want to get at X amount of pounds, but what will that make you feel? What is the feeling you're looking to achieve by getting to that weight or those pounds? And then we're exploring it deeper and overstating. Understating is if someone said, I want to get to X amount of pounds, I might say, oh, great. Then what's the next thing you would do after getting to those X amount of pounds? And I might find out that, oh, I want to get into my swimsuit for the summer. So a big leap versus small leaps. And I think it's important to really use those once you have an idea of the person that you're talking to, because some people might need that overstatement, whereas other people might need those small, tiny understatements to take the steps to where they need to get to. And Nicole, I'd say usually when we're talking about someone's why, it comes down to an emotion. They want to feel more confident. So keeping that in mind as well, too.
I think so many people, we talk about goal setting all the time, right? And you look at short-term goals, but really painting the picture of long-term success. And essentially we're talking about like a transformational identity, right? Like, who will you become when you lose X number of pounds? And really painting that picture so that when the going gets tough, you can always go back to what that picture was painted like.
Yes, absolutely. I guess now we have to get to the last letter of ORS, which is S. For summaries. Summary statements. These are so important, guys, because they are actually the application of reflective listening, right? You can't have a summary statement if you haven't been reflectively and actively listening to the speaker. So they can be used throughout a conversation, but they are particularly helpful at transition points. For example, after a person has spoken about a particular topic or talked about a personal experience, or when the consultation is nearing an end. And that's usually where I tend to use these reflective summaries from my reflective listening. So let's talk about how to do this. Summarizing helps to ensure that there is clear communication between the speaker and the listener, but it can also provide those stepping stones towards the change. Let's talk about how summaries should be structured. First, you want to begin with a statement indicating that you are making a summary. We have to kind of transition them to, I'm about to summarize what we talked about. So some examples could be, here's what I've heard. Tell me if I've missed anything. That's a great example. Or today in our meeting, we discussed, or from what I heard today, you are looking to do, and making sure that we're starting off that statement indicating we are doing a summary. Next, we want to give special attention to change statements. And these are statements that have been made by your client that points towards willingness to change. Then we want to talk about if the person expresses ambivalence, it's important to include both sides in the summary statement. So, for example, you could say, on one hand, blank, and on the other hand, blank, if we're looking to compare or contrast something that the speaker has talked about. It can also be useful to include information in summary statements from other sources, your own knowledge, your experience, things like that. Remember, it's always such a great way to show that you have been there and done that, or you've experienced that, making sure that we have that empathy and authority. Next, you want to make sure that you're concise. We want to be very concise with our summary statements. And finally, we want to end with an invitation. So, for example, did I miss anything? And if that's accurate, what other points should we consider? Or is there anything you want to add or correct? I think that's important as well, too.
Absolutely. Wrapping it up during consultation, so many things are talked about. So if you're able to wrap it up and give clients a clear path for success, talking about those action steps and how confident you feel doing X, Y, and Z, then you're going to leave them on a good path to know exactly what they need to do to be successful before they come back again.
Absolutely. If you follow OARS and you are an active listener and you use these motivational interviewing techniques, once you're done with that summary statement, it should naturally lead your client to their planning or taking those concrete steps towards that change. And that's really the goal of motivational interviewing.
Ashley, we talked about a lot of things today, going through all the steps with motivational interviewing, and it could be overwhelming for a new coach to start doing this.
Yes.
My first instinct would be, if you are not doing any of these things, start with listening.
Yes.
Like, start with talking less and asking more open-ended questions. That would be the first step of trying to actually implement and apply what we talked about today into practice.
Yes. And guys, I still have to make an intention to be a motivational interviewer, to active listening. Just because you've read this book or heard this podcast, it doesn't end there. You really need to make this a part of your coaching style and incorporate it and make a conscious effort to do it as well, too.
Especially if you are a talker. This is something we talk about in free intros all the time, right? Like, the client should be doing the majority of the talking in a free intro. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to find out about them. Same thing with initial consultations with new nutrition clients. They need to be doing most of the talking. If you're actively listening, making eye contact, nodding your head, smiling, it's going to help you build that relationship. And at the end of the day, that's the goal.
Yes, absolutely. So like Nicole said, guys, if you aren't doing any of these, start small. Start with talking less and listening more. Use some of those body language tips that we gave you for being an active listener, and start practicing open-ended questions.
Love that. As always, Ashley, thank you for coming on the podcast.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Nicole.
So many awesome takeaways in there. The biggest takeaway is that motivational interviewing takes practice and a conscious effort. Do a self-assessment. A great way to do this is to review a recording of you conducting an initial consult or a follow-up visit. We can all improve on motivational interviewing skills. If you're an HSN mentoring client, there is a motivational interviewing worksheet to help you apply all of this information. Head over to growyournutritionbusiness.com, log in to your member portal, and go to the individual coaching module. You're going to find it right there. Don't forget to check out the free Facebook group for gym owners and get immediate access to training recordings that we've done, live Q&As, and some awesome giveaways. We'll see you back next week.